Hey guys, hope all is well. So just jumping on here, Colin from Practice Nav. So today we're going to discuss the four key metrics that I would say you need to have to hand probably within about 2 or 3 minutes when you're discussing a healthcare business. So what we do when we're talking to people who want to come on board and they want to work with Practice Nav, we ask them a lot of questions following their initial business audit. So we'll ask them questions like, what was your turnover for 2021? What's your expenses looking like? All those sort of metrics. And in order to make, I suppose, better decisions for them or to give them the information they require to get to the next level in business, they need to have those numbers to hand. So, regardless of whether you're still doing paper notes or you've got a different system than what we use, you should be able to get these metrics pretty quick. And I would say you should be able to have these metrics all within under 5 minutes. Because once you have two or three of these metrics, you can get other metrics that are key within business. So the first one we look at is your time. So when we talk about time, we go, right, how much time do I put into the business? As in, how many hours a week do I spend? And we'll break that down into how many hours a week you working clinically, and then how many hours are you doing admin. And let's say you're working 50-50. So you're doing a 50-hour week and you're doing 25 hours clinical and you're doing 25 hours admin. Well, the obvious problem there is you're doing too much work in admin, and we'll hire an admin person because there's no sense in you doing that higher level thinking for an admin work. I'm not saying admin work isn't important, but you can generate more revenue for your business by seeing clients. So you could raise the amount of hours you work clinically within your business. So that's the first thing, is in how many hours a week. So let's say you have a contract with a team, a contract with a business organization. How many hours a week is that organization taking up of your time? So let's say, for example, you're working with a sports team and you do two training sessions. So you do 6 hours during the week and then you have a game at the weekend. So that's another 4 hours at the weekend. So that's up to 10 hours a week, and you work a 50-hour week. You're giving that organization 20% of your time. If we look at the revenue figures, then is that organization generating 20% of your revenue? And if there's a big mismatch there, we would have to look into that and investigate that further. That shows the value of measuring your time within the business. Okay. Then if we look at the next one, which we talked about there, is revenue. I'm amazed at how many people I ask when I'm doing a first one-on-one interview and I'm going, okay, what's your revenue like? So I know how much you charge per client. I know how much you charge per hour, but on average, what are you generating a month for your business overall total revenue? And people won't be able to tell me because they haven't got that information to hand, whether it's they're not recording it properly in the software that they're using, or they just wait till the end of the year to see how it all worked out. And if you're waiting till the end of the year to see how it all worked out, you're leaving yourself open to some big shocks, both from a tax point of view or a big shortfall point of view, where you might be looking to put X into your pension. And because you haven't kept your eye on the ball throughout the year, you're going to be short in your pension for that year. So that's an important figure to have every week and a month. So because let's say you've got 3 or 4 people working in your organization and you go, right, at the end of every week, I'm generating 5,000 euros. And you go, okay, well, at the moment, 4,200 of that euros is generated via card transactions. Okay, well, then we should see those card transactions come into the bank account the following week. But we also should have 800 euro cash to lodge in your bank account. And again, those numbers need to be checked the following week. And if they're not checked, there's a mismatch. And again, that mismatch can drag on throughout the whole course of the year. And when your accountant comes to ask you what's happening, you won't know where the mistake is. So it's very, very important to look at where the actual revenue numbers are coming from in your business and who's generating the revenue. Going back to our first point with time, if we look at an organization such as a sports team or a business that you might do contract work for, and you're spending 20% of your time there a week, it's good to know a breakdown of that revenue, where the money is coming from. So let's say it's a sports organization and you're generating 5,000 a week as a big business. and you're going, right, if we're putting 20% of the time in, ideally that organization is giving you $1,000 a week. That's where there's no mismatch. But if they're only giving you €200 a week and you're spending 20% of your time there, then it may be a time to cut ties with that organization, because there's a big mismatch between the time you're spending and the revenue you're generating. Very, very important. Okay. So then if we look at your expenses. So again, looking at this is just, some people bury their head in the sand. They don't keep an eye on their bank account when it comes to expenses. So in order to have a profitable company, you have to spend less than what you make. And by spending less than what you make, that's after you take out a livable wage for yourself. So let's say, for example, organization, you were generating that 5K and you were paying yourself 750, $1,000 a week, and out of that you've 4K left over. Let's say you paid an admin as well and you don't remember staff, so you've 3K left or 2K left over. Out of that, you need to know, how much am I spending on rent, how much am I spending on rates, what's the big upcoming expenses, can I put away some money for savings? Unless you know what your expenses are, you won't be able to keep a track of your figures, and therefore you'll get a big surprise at the end of the year again. But once you have your expenses under control, you know what you're spending a week, you know what your revenue is being generated, you're able to develop your profit, because its profit is revenue generated less expenses. That's your profit. That's what you're going to pay tax on. Okay, so it's really, really important that you figure out what your revenue is and what your expenditure is. Get those down straight away. The next one, what we're looking at doing then, is looking at your client numbers. So again, we do a lot of one-on-one chats with people, discovery sessions, and we go, okay, how many clients did you see last week? 50% of the people are unable to tell me. It's like, somewhere between 10 and 20. Well, was it 10 or was it 20? Because if you've seen 10 at €65, it's €650. If you've seen 20, it's €1,300. There's a big difference there, a big difference in the amount of revenue generated. And then if you can get that number and you know straight away, right, last week I seen 25 people. Out of those 25, 4 came from this place, 5 came from this place, the rest were word of mouth. Out of the 25, X number of packages of care, that's great. And then from there we look and go, right, well, out of that many people, did anyone cancel? If they cancelled, where are they? Can we follow them up, make sure they're okay, and ensure we're getting them to full success with their rehab? Otherwise, you're just dropping people off. So it's very, very, very important to know your client numbers, where they're coming from. So just to recap, the 4 metrics I would look for in a business, just offhand, within 5 minutes, have them to hand, are: one is your time that you're spending. Google Diary is a really good way to manage that, because your diary reflects your priorities, as Paddy Mulligan always says. Number 2 is your revenue generated. 3 is your expenses. And then finally, the 4th one is the client numbers and where they're coming from and who's cancelling and who's not. So guys, I hope you found that helpful today. As always, if you have any questions, pop them up in the comments below, and we'll go from there. Take care and have a great week. Cheers.